Well, it has been a while from me posting on this channel. It's been about 2 years, but something has happened, as you can probably tell by the title. That is a story that I want to remember, and it's a story I suppose that is worth telling as well. So yes, hello everyone, my name's Hannah and this is the story of how I broke my back at a trampoline park. So let's take it back about 8 weeks now. It's been a whirlwind of an 8 weeks, something that I never thought I would have to go through. So it was a lovely Friday at the start of March. As a company at Social Chain and Media Chain, we like to go out on, work days out every now and again. So for this month and this quarter, it was a day out to a trampoline park. Everyone was really happy. We had a great morning there with lots of team games around one of the big trampoline parks. You know the type, where they've got different areas for different things. So they had dodgeball, they had a place where you can climb, and they have the regular kind of big trampolines. So we'd had a great morning at the trampoline park. I think there was about 70 or 80 of us there at the time. It was lunchtime, so everyone was having their lunch. We'd just kind of finished having a nice buffet. It was a really good spread. I will give them that, a really good spread. And some people decided to go back on the trampolines. So a few of us went back downstairs to play on the trampolines whilst we were waiting for the activities to kind of resume. We went on the white trampolines, which are the really, really bouncy trampolines, and I saw a few of my friends doing flips and backflips, and I don't know what came over me because I'm a clumsy person. I break things easily. I've had 2 foot breaks in the past. But I thought to myself, I'm sure I could do a backflip in GCSE PE. Not thinking to myself, Hannah, you're 25 now, GCSE PE was 10 years ago. So I go over and I say, how do you do it again? And one of my friends tells me, oh, you bounce really high and you tuck your legs back and you'll kind of go around and land. And I was bouncing and kind of building myself up to do this backflip, and I tried to do a backflip and I massively failed to do a backflip. How I remember it is I was bouncing and as I turned in the air, I don't know if this is how it happened or if this is just kind of my mind and how my mind's made me think, but as I was turning in the air, I heard a crack, and it was the kind of biggest burst of pain that I've ever felt, and I just kind of thought to myself, oh shit. I landed and all I remember is screaming, help me, help me, help me, and kind of screaming like I was in labour, like screaming the place down. The pain was unbelievable, and I kind of remember the first thing that I did was wiggle my toes, because you hear about back injuries and you hear that they can cause paralysis and these really kind of life-changing accidents, and you hear of all these things going on. So the first thing I did was wiggle my toes and just continue to scream because the pain is, I hope I'll never feel anything like it again. It was absolutely phenomenal. And people started to swarm around me. So if you imagine the trampoline is kind of a rectangle shape, I landed kind of off of the rectangle, not off of it, with my body was in the middle of the rectangle and my legs were kind of off the side. I was face down, and the way that I'd landed, this arm was up here, this arm was like out to my side, and then my legs were crossed behind me face down. People started to swarm around. The first aid at the trampoline park, all they've really been trained in is kind of basic first aid level. So all I knew to say was stay still, because if you move you can make it worse. So I stayed still and I stayed screaming, and I had, like I said, I had people kind of around me, but they couldn't stand on the trampoline near me because any time it moved my back. The ambulance was called, but ambulances take a long time. So I was waiting for about 40 minutes for the first response, which isn't even the ambulance. And all of that time I'm lying, this arm here, this arm out of the side, and my legs crossed behind my back, which was very difficult to do. And Steve, who kind of sat with me, who is our CEO at the company, Steve sat with me for that whole time, holding my hand, and he just kept saying, you know, you've got to stay still, you can do it. And what I was saying to him was, you know, I can deal with pain, the pain's not going to go away, you know, I can't do anything about the pain now. But what was hard, because, you know, I'm not a very fit and strong person, what was hard was the fact that this arm was kind of holding me up, so I was holding myself in a half wonky plank position for 40 minutes, which was like the hardest and longest 40 minutes I think I'll ever have in my entire life. It was so hard, and thinking back to the pain and my screams, and I don't know how I got through it. And I've said this to Steve, I don't think I would have got through it if he wasn't there holding my hand and saying, you can do this, hand, they're just around the corner. So we fast forward 40 minutes, the first response woman got there, but you know, she's not an ambulance, she doesn't have all of the equipment that the ambulance has. So she told me that yes, you can lie flat, you're not going to damage anything if you move your arm out of in front of you, and that was a big relief. But she hadn't brought any painkillers aside from gas and air, which is the thing that you get when you're pregnant, where you it's like nitrous oxide, I think, you suck on the gas and air, and it takes the edge off any pain, which is great. And I was very grateful and thankful that she'd brought that, but she hadn't brought anything stronger with her, because she thought the ambulance was only 5 minutes behind her. She then said that we could roll me over onto my back, as that would be the best position that I had to be in. So her and I think Steve, Dom and first aid guys at the trampoline park had stood alongside my body, and you basically have to roll at the same time, so 1, 2, 3, roll. And they rolled me into the middle of the trampoline whilst I waited for the ambulance to come. Ambulance finally got there after about over an hour, maybe an hour and a half, and they had to work out how to get me onto the bed to carry me to the ambulance. Again, being on a trampoline, worst possible place to be when you've got a back injury, because how do they get the bed underneath you? Because every time they lift you up or push you down, the trampoline moves, and it just makes it incredibly difficult to get onto the bed. Luckily by this point, you know, I had gas in there, I had morphine, so I was a bit away with the fairies and cracking some jokes by this point, but you know, realistically I'd done some damage. So that was a long time for me to get onto the bed and off into the ambulance, which was them, you know, bouncing over multiple trampolines, trying to keep me as still as possible and not shake me up and down, which was, I can imagine it was hard for them as much as it was difficult for me. I suppose that's just kind of the start of the story. At this point I didn't really know what was going on. All I remember is that I was very scared, and I remember seeing Kate Leeson as I got put into the ambulance, because I was lying flat on my back. I saw her face above me. I remember seeing her and just saying to her, I'm scared, because all you can think of when you've hurt your back is, am I going to be able to walk again? So almost 2 hours after I'd broken my back, I was in the ambulance, I was on the way to the hospital, still not really knowing what was going on. By this point I had 2 canisters full of gas in there, which is a hefty amount, but I am 6'1" tall, so I needed it all. Got to the hospital still in agony, but you know, a bit less in pain than I was, because I had all of these drugs inside me. I remember one of the most difficult things was that I needed a wee, and obviously you can't get up to go and wee. I don't think they wanted to put a catheter in this at this time, because they didn't know what had happened. So I ended up having to be scooched down at the bottom of the bed and wee in a bedpan, which was again just a great experience. Once I got to the hospital as well, they put a neck brace on me, because the ambulance didn't have a neck brace for me to put on whilst I was at the trampoline park. They actually fashioned a neck brace out of 2 of the foam squares, and they kind of shoved it into the bed and like wrapped something around my head. So I'd had some kind of neck brace, but at this point I was put into a neck brace at hospital, and I wasn't allowed to move. I had to keep incredibly still. I suppose by the end of the day we knew that I had broke my back. We knew that I'd broke a vertebrae, but we didn't know the extent of the injury or what the next steps would be. And unlucky for me, breaking something on a Friday often means that a lot of the equipment at the hospital, in particular the MRI scanner, isn't used again until the Monday. So I was needing an MRI scan to see the extent of the break and how bad it was, but I couldn't get it until the following Monday. So what this meant for me was that I was kind of stuck in limbo in hospital, lying flat on my back from Friday all the way through until Monday, at least, when I got my MRI scan. It holds some strange memories thinking back to that room. Like I said, it was just me being in limbo, still being very scared because I didn't know, what was going to happen or if I'd ever be able to walk again. We fast forward to we don't fast forward, it didn't go fast. So we get to the Monday and it's the day that I can finally have an MRI scan. So that was an experience, I'll tell you that for now. So the MRI scan, again, I had to get kind of moved from one bed to the other to go into the MRI scan. So this was one of my favourite things to do, was to be moved whilst I had a broken back. But don't worry, you get it at least twice a day. Again, it's where they would bring 4 people into the room, they kind of grab a section of my body each, and they would roll me, and then they slid whatever needed to go underneath. So sometimes it would be new bed sheets, sometimes it would be to kind of wash me or whatever it might be. But for the MRI scan, it was to move me onto the new bed to go into the MRI scanner. And then an MRI scanner, not really the best, not the funnest thing to do. You go inside a tube which is about this far from your face. So they started to slide me in, and me not realising that I was that claustrophobic, my heart starts going bum 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 bum, and I absolutely freak out. Say, I can't do it, you've got to pull us out now. So they pulled us out and basically said, if you don't do it, I'm going to send you back upstairs and you'll have to come straight back down. We need to understand what's gone on. So luckily they said that some people find it useful when you put an eye mask on, because you can't tell where you are. So they put an eye mask on, and I just made myself imagine that I was in a very breezy room that was noisy, and got through those 25 minutes okay, which I was pleased about. So we get the MRI results back, and it turns out that the fracture itself is unstable. Now what that means in a kind of spinal fracture is that it can press on the spinal cord if you don't have surgery. So at this point they said you're probably going to have surgery, but we're not 100% sure. We will send you to the other hospital, which is a spinal specialist hospital, and they'll be able to tell you something from there. On the Monday night I was transferred again in an ambulance to Salford Royal Hospital, which is it's a hospital that deals with a lot of spinal injuries and has a unit kind of dedicated to spinal injuries. So I get there, go to sleep, and I'm woken up early morning and told, yes, you will be going into surgery today. So obviously in my mind I'm thinking, God, surgery, it's not something to be taken lightly, it's a very scary thing. And and one of the first things that actually popped into my mind was, oh my God, I saw a programme 10 years ago where someone had been put asleep in surgery, but they could feel everything and they could see what was going on. Oh my God. And I actually said this to the anaesthetic people, the people who put you under, and they were like, oh my God, everyone asks this question, do not worry, it's like a 1 in 40,000 chance, you'll be absolutely fine. I was like, okay. At this point I'm texting my family, I'm going in surgery in 2 hours, and I live in Manchester, my family lives near Newcastle, which is about 3 hours away. My mum's in work at the time, and I get a text, I'm coming down, I'm on my way. I was like, oh my God, calm down. Luckily I had my boyfriend there, and I had people around us that were there for me, so I was fine. But no, she drove 3 hours down to come and see us. And at 9 AM I go into surgery, and at about 1 or 2 PM I come out of surgery. And what they've done in the surgery is they basically cut my back open. I've got a heck of a scar, and they've put 6 metal pins into my spine. I'm doing this because this is kind of what it looks like. Imagine this is my spine. So they've put 6 metal pins or screws into my spine, and then they've connected those by 2 metal rods. So either side of my spine has 6 metal pins to kind of stabilise and stop the vertebrae that's been broken being crushed or kind of going onto my spinal cord. And I woke up and the first thing I said was, "Thank you, anaesthetic people," because I was just so happy that I hadn't woken up during surgery, and I was so happy that, you know, I was alive. So after I got out of recovery, I was in a new ward, and luckily I was by myself in a room kind of on my own, which was great. And this was going to be my home for the next couple of days whilst I, you know, got used to the new metal in my back and was taught how to walk again and things like that. The first 24 hours after surgery are fine because you're still pumped with anaesthetic, and the pain isn't as bad because you've got all these painkillers inside your body. It's after the first 24 hours that things start to get a bit more difficult. So 24 hours after my surgery was when they came in and taught me how to stand up and taught me how to walk again, and this was hard and painful. I had a lot of painkillers in my body to kind of help stand up and walk around, but ultimately I was so happy that I was walking around and that I could do things by myself again. You know, I could start to get a little bit more independent, although I still needed help. And then it was on the Friday that I got discharged from the hospital. So they discharged me with, again, plenty of painkillers, and it actually took hours and hours and hours for me to be discharged because I was waiting on being prescribed morphine, which it's difficult for them to give morphine out of the hospital because, you know, it's a controlled drug. So I was waiting ages and ages to be discharged, but finally got my pain meds, finally got discharged and was sent home, which I was so grateful for. And then the next 6 weeks were me being at home, healing, me, you know, being by myself at home and just kind of sitting around but moving when I could. Lots of painkillers for the first few weeks. And at the moment I'm just in my first week back at work. I'm doing a phase return, which means that, you know, I'm doing a couple of days for a couple of hours at a time. It's very hard, it's very painful. I haven't had morphine for, you know, 3-4 weeks before this week, and this week I've had to have morphine because I'm building my muscles back up. I'm doing a lot more than I was. This is a, you know, long healing process. It's going to be a year, 2 years before everything's fully back to normal. The screws in my back don't actually fully fuse until the 18-month to 2-year mark, so I've just got to be super, super careful. And yeah, that's pretty much it. I can't promise any other videos because I'm a very busy woman, but I've enjoyed filming this video today. I enjoy sharing stories, so, you know, you might see some more videos on the Hands Hands channel in the next couple of months, hopefully, if I've got any ideas or if I just want an outlet. But yeah, thank you so much for watching. I hope you got something out of this story. I definitely did. It's kind of cathartic for me to share this story and kind of reflect on it and understand it and what word I'm looking for, like digest what happened. So yes, thank you very much, and maybe see you next time.